Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Today is Thursday, September 26, 2024. Our goal here is to review the market generated information in a holistic fashion. We are intimately following the auctions narrative of both ES and NQ. If we have time, we'll theorize and add additional commentary towards the end. We did speculate in the market today. Please see our uploaded recording. It is only the DOM replay. There is no commentary included for today. All right, thank you. Let's get started. So, starting with our narrative and the summary questions, where is the market coming from? What is price trying to accomplish? Let's see if we can understand the narrative. If we have any kind of expectations for the day. So again, we closed yesterday, the first red day of the week for the ES, and the NQ finished with a doji. So we finished here. We were able to make a higher high. We poked above the all-time highs just a little bit and kind of died down on the volume. Same situation on the NQ, except their poke above was for the candle here, but not so much for the 20. I think it's like a 20K 260, right? 263, 268. So yeah, we were able to look above that Thursday post FOMC. So making a high above this candle, um, that was the a big win for the buyers, and they continued the one-time framing as well as the S&P 500. Even with it being a red candle, they're one-time framing. Again, you can look at yesterday's video if needed. So really, the goal was to continue one-time framing up, and that's really it. The data for today was the Costco's earnings for the PM, and so Accenture is actually for, I think this is technology as well. They were up like a decent amount, so I learned about them today. So this was somewhat relevant. We did have the GDP and the durable goods alongside the initial jobless claims, and then a lot of Fed speakers kind of throughout the day. Powell was showing up a little bit with a pre-recorded speech as the opening remarks, but really not too much from the Fed speaker. It sounds like they just kind of skated around any kind of monetary policy responses for the most part. So again, really just anticipating these earnings and then the GDP, the durable goods, so on and so forth, which may be a little bit lagging um, when relative to our most recent Fed rate cut. So clearly, you can see we had a big up thrust here with a finishing above that midpoint, but we did close above. So that was a project. I mean, mission accomplished for the buyers. And then the same situation here for the NQ, except the NQ. We mentioned yesterday that the beast may have awoken. So we'll see if this is going to continue. But again, NQ is really stepping up, and we're seeing that money kind of being transferred back to NQ. We're not just going to look at NQ and just say tech is weak, tech is strong. I think we're understanding that some money is coming off of the ES and being sent to the technology sectors. At least that's what it seems like. Looking at the actual daily candles, we can see the same thing here. The volume definitely increased, highest of the week so far, but relatively less than what we've seen for the whole month. So volume's increasing with the activity as we drifted up, and then that push back down lower. We definitely saw some volume increasing. The VPOC is near the lows the last quarter. It's interesting to see. And then the sellers have decent positioning. But notice the sellers never really had much control, minimum being 2,600 versus the 16K for the buyers. So again, we see these buyers kind of peppered in here, and they don't have the best position, though it's not anything too concentrated. We definitely have some possibly new money buyers that are possibly off balance. I'm not sure if all those are going to be short squeezes, but who knows? Will lead to speculation for later on. Same situation here for the NQ. Notice that they were a lot more sell heavy, and then sellers have been really sitting here for the while, for the longest, and that's kind of what we were just talking about with them, with the beast being awakened. During the past month or so, just notice all of the third column, 1, 2, and 3. The third column is just severely red. There's just a lot of selling. If you look at the ES, we're not seeing that as much. It is just a little lighter from what we can tell, but not anything, like too concentrated. Um, and buyers being able, looking at the top line, the buyers being able to really finish strong for a lot of these days. When you look at the the NQ, notice that the sellers are finishing strong. Not only are they pushing it towards the, for the whole day, but they're actually finishing strong as well. But we're starting to see these sellers, even though that they're still really trying, um, they're not really getting much progress. The beast is starting to awaken. But again, we'll leave that for another time. So looking at the actual sector tracker, we can see that the ES ended up 40 basis points, almost 0.5%, with the technology and materials leading. Again, materials isn't weighted too strong, but technology definitely did a solid job for today. This is that Accenture that I was talking about. They're up almost 6%. Same with Microchip Technology. Um, but again, and Micron is still up 14%. But the big players, Apple, Microsoft, and Nvidia. So I mean, they did decently well today. I mean, nothing too sexy. AMD up, 3.5%. But this was just a good collective response from the technology sector. Just solid job from the smaller players, really um, carrying that sector for today. And then the big players just they did okay. So solid day for technology as a group, and even for healthcare and financials, them actually ending positive. Everyone did fairly well today, with the laggards being energy, which say what you will about that. Real estate, these two are lighter, and then utilities finally taking a little break, and they've been breaking out. Look over the month, they're the actual leaders. Um, so really, that's it. Consumer staples and discretionary, pretty chill. If we can get this to load, I would like to take a look, see who did what, but it's fine. We'll go ahead and go to the market profile. Really not too much to show here. This is multi-distributed indeed. It's regarding the volume. Wouldn't call this a D shape. This is definitely just multi-distributed. Really not too much to show there. Not much of an excess at the top. I think this is considered a poor high. So it seems like we just ran out of time. There was a lot of buying, and then we just kind of slipped through, couldn't get back up. But there was definitely some activity that was going on here. However, the majority of the activity was done towards the lower half of the portion, definitely near the lows, which is the high of the previous day. But we'll look at the actual structure later on. So no singles or anything. Really, not too much to look at. I failed to mention the range of the day. The range for the S&P 500 is 52 and 350 for the NASDAQ. And back to the NASDAQ with the 350 points of range. This is the exact scenario that we were referring to for the objective for the buyers to look above and then to find support here, and then ideally just kind of chop around and eventually, be able to push through if they can. That's essentially what happened here for today. So again, we have our today's session, and then we have the week here, and then we have the month, and then we have the composite that goes all the way back to April. So again, not really too much for this day. We had our drift up, which we'll look at on 3 minute. We had our crash down. This is just a composite. This is just a micro composite zone, a bit of a low volume node. Um, Yeah, we ended up shooting up out of this purple zone here, which is the high volume node, and we ended up pushing lower towards the end of the high volume node, and we came right back to that valley that buyers are hoping that they can hold. So we'll see what happens in the overnight session, but again, solid job for the NQ for them to close above this high volume node here. So again, solid job from what we can see so far. Looking on the intraday for the NQ, so when you look at it, it's going to be a bear flag because of course we had the big gap up, um, just a big drifting up again. We'll look at it on a 3 minute, but we essentially just shot down, and this is very reminiscent to what we saw yesterday. Just kind of being stuck in a range, a big move, and then being stuck in a range. Again, big move here, and then just being stuck in a range. So we're essentially just flagging is what it seems like each day. So it's a little bit annoying. This is just straight, a straight consolidation zone there. So really not too much to show here. We've been talking about the sellers here. They ran into a brick wall, more of a beach ball kind of. They tried pushing it down again. Here you can see the minimum kind of sticking out, and then they ended up squeezing towards the end just to close out of their positions. It seems, we would imagine. Same situation here for the S&P 500. Still with the lower highs and the lower lows, big slant down, and then we just ended pretty much sideways for another bear flag. Same situation with the minimum data, and then towards the buying, and then the buying towards the end. So sellers just kind of just gave up. They couldn't push it below the prior day's low. They didn't make a new low for the whole session, but they couldn't get it past the prior day's low. So say what you will about that. Looking at the 138 minute candle. Again, this is for the NQ. We are now in blue skies, at least for the past bit since April. I'll need to increase the time. That way we can look back a little bit. So we'll do the bar periods. I'm sorry, the data limiting will lead us at 100. And then I'll go ahead and do the same thing here for the S&P 500. So if you look at the NQ, we can see where they are. So we're right about here in this zone, essentially. So for them to get back in here, this is definitely a solid job for the NQ. But we are running into some former support here. So we'll be curious if this is going to be a situation where they end up pushing back down. But who knows? This is the first time NQ has been in clear skies. The S&P 500, we're just at all-time highs, so they have some ground to give up. All right, let's see if we can get into some of the nitty gritties with the 3 minute candles. And before I get ahead of myself, I realize I didn't go through the full narration. So again, so far from what we can see, their goal was just the buyers. Their goal was to do the higher highs and the higher lows. Looks like they did a swell job. Really, not too much to say so far. Um, I don't want to say this is bearish from what we can see. Um, we're still primarily waiting for the PCE that should come out tomorrow. The durable goods definitely isn't the most impactful there is. So I just kind of want to throw that out there one more time. All right, so we've done a higher time frame, we've done our intraday, and now we're looking at our 3 minute candles. Looking at the NQ, we can see that they actually, let's start with the S&P 500 because they're not as exaggerated. So again, we were able to push above and we are able to hit the all-time highs um, somewhere around this section here. So once we got through the all-time highs, there was no kind of resistance. We held above and then really just kept pushing from there. So again, we had our down day, our high to low, and then we ended up completely rallying through well above the all-time highs for about 20 to 30 points. And as we started pushing and head into the RTH, there was an immediate rejection. We pushed up and then drive down lower. The clear sign that this was going to be a potential trend down day was the open drive and no kind of fucking trading above the VWAPs, the full session and the RTH and the 5 smoothing average. The one opportunity we had to get above the initial balance mid with the SOC for the 7 a.m. data, which I think it was something with the home sales data. Typically, I would do actually just for the sake of process. We had our SOC for our durable goods and everything that we were referring to earlier. We opened up, we had an attempt to possibly get above or get back into that zone for the 7 a.m. data, and then just completely engulfed, shot through, and then same situation. Can't trade above these VWAPs. And then we had a complete liquidation break back into the prior day's range. So not only once we hit, not only are we breaking through the structure for the overnight session, once we hit this prior day's initial balance, completely sliced through these as well. Not until we hit the initial balance low from yesterday is when we found some support. We're able to push through and get to the RTH VWAP after kind of curling at these lows, still showing some weakness, completely engulfed back under the 5 smoothing average until we made a new low and then another big liquidation break. And that pretty much completed the overnight low. So it seems wild, but we made our all-time highs push through, started to bear flag. As soon as RTH opened, this was considered expensive, and we couldn't get back above. Complete breakthrough through the prior day's range. That was not enough to get us back to the RTH. They get another chance to defend. They couldn't hold it. And then we ended up just completely just breaking the overnight low. Once the overnight low was broken, everything was fine. They ended up pushing back above the VWAPs, but they never made it back to the initial balance low. Not until the overnight session. So this doesn't count. So very, very weak close overall. Very much of that bear flag. But I mean, kind of say what you will about this. Even with this all-time high, this was a big puncture to the bears. We were able to come all the way up, but a big puncture for the maybe late money, late buyers, late new money buyers. As we came all the way down, broke through this whole move and broke through the overnight low. But say what you will about this, this is still a higher low from the yesterday. So I mean, we're still making a higher high and a higher low. So I mean, say what you will about this, but this still appears to be a bit bullish. And not only that, but we closed above yesterday's high. Just looking at it, just RTH only. Gap up. Gap close. All the way through. Once we broke that overnight low here, we closed right above the prior day's close. Prior day settle, and we just kept pushing back into the full set, the RTH VWAP. So that was the S&P 500, who was not as strong as the NQ. So if we look at theirs, their rally was a bit stronger, much more aggressive. Even this wasn't much of a flag here. We were still pushing. We were still pushing upwards. But them two, once the RTH happened, completely engulfed and just kind of ran through. Both VWAPs, smooth and average here. Their sign of their weakness was their 7 a.m. candle came nowhere close. It didn't even break the full session VWAP, and it barely broke the. And it never broke the RTH VWAP. It never came any close to the IB mid like the S&P 500 did. And then that was engulfed as well. And then we traded below the 5 smoothing average, and then completely just rolled it all the way down. Same situation, broke those same levels, except they didn't hit their prior IB low. And they too closed above their prior day's high and their the HOD. And then also this is a nice double bottom. So for future reference, this may be a target for bears if we ever have any kind of like sell side pressure. Just a thought, because there's no real structure down here. Just a thought. So really not too much to show there. Regarding the trades of the day, I mean, I tried to participate in this and I was getting my ass kicked. Absolutely. But looking at this in hindsight, This, well, actually, in real time, this was kind of glaring and it was jarring at the same time. I wasn't really sure what to make of that 7 a.m. candle being stuffed, opposed to the S&P 500, where their candle um, definitely has some activity to the upside. But I digress. Um, Really, they couldn't get above here. This really was more of a day for breakouts. I tried here, but I ended up kind of getting smoked there, not having too much of a wider. Just the buyers were just kind of too strong in this situation. Any kind of really the best activity for me was more of like breakouts for this kind of environment here. Um, Kind of getting in, there was no real pullbacks. This is just a kind of a big squeeze. I have a play for this, but to be honest, I haven't looked at my playbook for this specific play in the minute. So now that I'm talking speaking out this out loud, I'm definitely gonna do a little homework. So real no real notes on plays of the day today. This is definitely a strange one for the NQ. Regarding the ES, typically if we're if we're squeezing lower and we're not having any kind of activity to the upside like this, typically this first 3 minute candle above the five smoothing average, like a full body candle, um, that shit gets smoked for the most part. So if you're quick enough, you can enter here at this VWAP short, or this retest here when you're seeing that they're struggling. If you want to pull this down to like a 1 minute to kind of see what this looks like, um, again, they got smoked here, but say what you will. This is that full body 3 minute candle there. When you see them fail at this point, you really need to attack. I definitely need to attack. Let me do this VWAP for the 1 minute. Absolutely attack here with ferocity. Here, this is at 810. The actual VWAP here is, let's call it 5 points if you really wanted to. So you can get, I'll be able to get, two small micros there, or a little more if needed. And being able to add is when they're rejecting here, especially this tight little compression candle in this situation. Targeting essentially the overnight low. So those points would be, I don't know, that'd be maybe like a 4-1, 5-1, something like that. So really, the better, more structured play was showed up for the S&P 500. So that makes sense to me in real, in hindsight, and even in real time, I can kind of tell. I just traded like shit today, to be honest. Okay, cool. So just to wrap this up, the buyers did a okay job, but given the context of everything that's going on, I would give them about a 6 out of 10 for them to be able to handle that sell-off and still create a higher low as they have been doing this entire time. Here, 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 and here. Same situation, except we're getting a little stronger on the NQ with those areas. This is still nice. So with same downside momentum, but we're having huge legs to the upside. So I'll give them like about a 6 or a 7, and I can see how you can give them a little lower. But again, solid job for the buyers. Um, as we move forward, I'm unsure as we head into the PCE. So I'm not sure if PCE will be updated data for the market to digest since the recent Fed cuts. So really, we'll see. But again, buyers are still in control. They're still doing their higher highs and higher lows. Any event that these sellers catch a big impulse candle, who really gives a shit? We'll see. Because as of right now, buyers have control on all time frames. It doesn't mean that you just recklessly just go buy, but sellers don't have any kind of control. So we'll believe it when we see it, and then we can speak on it from that side. But as of right now, buyers are doing a fantastic job. They really need to keep it up with the higher highs and the higher lows. Volumes increasing as we're breaking out even more, and we have one more day to end the week. Do be mindful that Monday is going to be the last day of the month, and just looking at this monthly candle, nothing about this looks bearish. So I'll end it on that note for both of them. Enjoy your night.